The topic for the day is yogic contemplation and executive function. Yogic contemplation is ancient technology of transformation. And executive function is the modern neuropsychological concept, which is not really a technology, it's a theoretical concept without any operational details, whereas yogic contemplation is a concept with operational details. If you follow the steps, you get transformed under your own control, from whatever you are to whatever you want to be. So that is the purpose of yogic contemplation. And executive function, on the other hand, gives you a listing of what you need to transform yourself. It does not take you to a transformational journey. On a transformational journey, it just tells you what you need. So we'll talk about both of them. The motivation for this event came from World Interfaith Harmony Week celebration that is UN sanctioned. And the purpose of that celebration is to cultivate love of the one God and love of the good, so that we can love our neighbor, whosoever that neighbor may be, howsoever diverse that neighbor may be. So that is an aspiration of the United Nations. And then there is another UN sanctioned observation, which is the International Day of Yoga. And that's what we are talking about. That is the technology that can enable the love of God and the love of good. If you make that as a purpose of life, it'll enable you to achieve that purpose.
Sorry, Shiv, you have to go to full screen.
I have to.
You're on your PowerPoint.
I'm on my PowerPoint. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have to stop sharing this screen.
No, don't stop. No, that's okay.
That's okay. That's all right. I can go to another screen share. I can go to another screen share. I should be really here. Do you see the full screen now?
It's coming. Yep, there you go. Perfect.
All right. Yeah. You might have noticed that practically all presentations that I made start with inbuilt natural instincts. And they're the culprit, but they also define our nature. And the whole problem is, how do you transcend the inbuilt natural instincts so that you can achieve the purpose of your life that you determine? Okay. And these natural instincts that we call, they are essentially contents of our memory that is located in our genes. As long as we have those genes, content of the genetic memory actually runs our life, because they provide the data to our mind to decide what and how we are going to behave. If the behavior is unconscious or subconscious. But if we insert consciousness in our behavior, we can exercise a free will. We'll talk about what we are fated to do and how we can change our fate with our own free will. Unconscious and subconscious behavior is, if we are not careful about our behavior, that's how we will behave. And that is decided by the instincts. So what are those instincts? They are animal instincts, survival, sustenance, and procreation, they work unconsciously. Survival, if our survival is in danger, we take steps to save ourselves, save our life, and that is instantaneous, automatic. And what is automatic is unconscious. And sustenance is another unconscious activity. We have to sustain our life. First, we have to save our life, keep it safe, and then we have to sustain it. And then we also got to procreate so that we keep on living through our progeny. So you can say immortality is built into us. If we cannot live forever, we can live through the transmission of our genes. And the instincts that we have, that is actually the genetic memory that has been transmitted to us from our ancestors and their ancestors and their ancestors and so on. Genes, there is a continuity right down to the first life form that ever lived on the planet. Okay, so we are from the first life form, and then single cell life form, then multicellular life forms, all those life forms that preceded us. We got their genes, and therefore we got everything that they had in their genes. They had survival instinct built into them that is natural. There's no point of making a life if it doesn't survive, and it doesn't sustain itself, and it doesn't procreate. And then as the single cell life becomes multicellular life, in animals and creatures, they have an identity that's called herd identity that acts subconsciously. And then when we become mammals, life evolves to mammalian evolution. Mammals have got mammary glands, and that's the beginning of love. And begins there. So in the beginning, that familial love is subconscious, and then it becomes conscious, a matter of choice. And if once we start asserting our consciousness, we can move on from familial love to a possibility of unconditional love of the whole existence. So unconditional love of whole existence, that is a conscious choice. We are not built to do that, but if we are conscious of doing that, we are able to do it. That is how we are built. We talked about it when we looked at evolution. Our inbuilt natural instincts determine the life we are naturally inclined to lead, but we are built to change our natural tendencies if we make the unconscious conscious. When we start exerting our consciousness to take charge of the automatic and the semi-automatic, or the unconscious and subconscious activities of our life, then we can keep on developing. Otherwise, we are destined to live a life of booze, broads, and beef, very sensory, for sense gratification, and then we grow herd identity, familial love, and then we can continue growing. We can move to the love of the whole existence. Right? Yeah. The universe is rooted in the oneness of non-differentiation. Remember when we started to look at the journey of evolution, with the Big Bang, everything was in a melting pot. Nothing could be differentiated. So that oneness is where we started. So that we have an experience of that in our genes also. Matter of which genes are made, it was in a melting pot at one time. You could not tell oxygen from nitrogen or carbon from hydrogen. Everything was the same. Things existed in infinitely small particles that we could not distinguish. So that is where our roots are, in one God, if you want to put it in religious terms. But living beings are shackled to a life of bondage and slavery to divisive survival instincts, born out of conditioning by their organs of perception and action. Okay? And those instincts keep us apart. And they keep us apart by running our lives unconsciously or subconsciously. And our main aim is sense gratification and asserting our identity. Our herd identity, ego identity, whatever words you want to use for it. So we are shackled that way. Human beings, actually all mammals to some extent, but human beings are supposed to be the most advanced mammals. We are equipped with a conscious faculty, the use of which can break our shackles and set us free to return to the universal root of non-differentiation. So from here, we become this, and then if we use our consciousness, we can go back to our original oneness, that where we are born from. And if we live a life of purpose, we can rise above our natural tendencies, making the unconscious conscious. Life of purpose is conscious living. We determine what we want to be. And if we keep on track, we can become whatever we want to become. We have that potential built into us. But you have to be confident, yes, this is where I want to be. And I'm going to keep trying until I get there, and you will get there. That is the promise of yoga. Yoga says, whatever you decide you want to be, whatever you decide that you can be, whatever is your purpose of life. Today I'm here. Okay? But later on, I want to be here. So yoga says you can go from here to here, provided you are serious in your purpose. You want to go there, and you keep attempting, spend your consciousness there, put your mind there, put your attention there. Okay? And your consciousness will then take you from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. So there's an element of position, and there's an element of purpose. Element of time there. Most people think, okay, from here to there, it'll take me 5 years. So do I want to spend 5 years there? And if they decide no, they will never get there. And if they decide yes, and they make a start, and they keep on track, they will get there. That is the promise of yoga. And yoga tells you how, what steps you can take. Whatever the whatever you want to be, you can be. But there are some certain factors. Strength of desire should be there. There has to be a gap in position. You have to go from this place to this place. And sincerity of purpose without hidden agenda. You should be sincere about what you want to be, and you should not have any hidden agenda. Okay? That sincerity of purpose should be really pure. And focus to stay on course. You should have that capacity and ability and tenacity to self-regulate, to make the unconscious conscious. Okay, self-regulation is the key. Okay, and how to self-regulate, we'll talk about it. Now, this is one example of a great purpose you can have. When we learn about God, I learn about my God. That's the God to which my culture introduces me to. So I see that God as the God, but that God only makes me love a neighbor if conditionally. If the neighbor is my type, I love him. If the neighbor is not my type, I don't love him. From that conditioning, I have to go to an unconditioned state where I can see all divinity through my God. All kinds of gods. My neighbor's God, I can see through my God. Therefore, I can love my neighbor. Okay, so from here, I want to go there. Same thing about good. The love of good. If you don't love any good, no ethic, love of any ethics or values, you won't love your neighbor. So if you love ethics and values, you will love your neighbor. So these are the two principles of growth that World Interfaith Harmony Week are aspiring. And yoga says, yes, both of them you can be, provided you want that as your purpose of life. If your purpose of life is to love thy neighbor, whosoever that neighbor will be, you can do so. And we talk about unity in diversity. Okay. In the beginning, I'm at a state where when I see Fred is separate from me. Oxygen is not the same as nitrogen. Fred is not the same as me. So I see oxygen and nitrogen are diverse. So that is what is called atomistic thinking. From there, I want to go to a holistic thinking. Okay. When I start seeing, let me see what is in nitrogen. I see nitrogen cannot exist if there's no energy entertained in every molecule of nitrogen, and oxygen cannot exist if there's no energy entrained in the atoms of oxygen. And electrons, protons, and neutrons, if there are no electrons, protons, and neutrons in oxygen and nitrogen, they cannot exist. It's really essentially, what is the basic cause of existence of atoms is energy that is immanent in the oxygen atom, and same energy immanent in the nitrogen atom. Therefore, nitrogen and oxygen are the same. They just look different because there are different numbers of electrons, protons, and neutrons in their atoms, but really speaking, they are the same. So they may be different on the looks, but if you go to the core, there is no difference. So that is unity in diversity. Okay. So just like person A and person B, we talk about Fred and I. In the when I'm a 5-year-old, Fred is 5-year-old, and I'm a different 5-year-old. So we don't see each other as connected or the same. But when we grow in our thoughts, I can see the spirit that is immanent in Fred and the spirit that is immanent in me, and that spirit is the same. So Fred and I, we look different on the surface, but if you go to the core, we are not different. Well, that is unity in diversity. And we can actually experience that. We can see it with the eyes of the mind, because we see it with our own eyes of the mind, then it becomes a livable truth for me. If it's a superficial knowledge, if it is only knowledge on at an intellectual, superficial level, I may pay lip service to our unity of Fred and I, but when it comes to life, I will not be living it. Okay, so the yoga says that you will see the hidden truths with your own eyes, with that kind of certainty. With that kind of certainty, you are then transformed. You have no choice but transform yourself to live in accordance with that. Okay. There is the metaphor of the wagon, which is which comes from the Vedic tradition. There's me. The real me is the spirit, which is ineffable. It cannot be seen. You don't see me, but you see here this guy driving a wagon. And who is this guy that is driving a wagon? That is my intellect. And what is the wagon? Wagon is my life. And the driver has got a whip in his hands to guide the horses or motivate the horses to go slow or fast or whatever. And then he's got reins. And what are the reins? Okay, intellect is the wagoneer. Ego, identity is the reins. And senses are the horses. Okay, so senses is what we perceive and how we behave. They determine our perception and behavior in the external world. And that is guided through the reins, through my ego identity, by my intellect. Okay. But those horses are very powerful, and there are 5 of them. I could not find a wagon with 5 horses. I could only find with 4. So anyways, really speaking, if you look at 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, there are 10 horses, but they're related. You can do with 5, but here we have only 4. Anyways, that's just a metaphor. That's okay. That's okay. So what if the driver doesn't know, he doesn't have skill to control the horses? What will happen? You see the life crashing. Okay, and this is the condition of most of us. Before we can fulfill our purpose, we get sidetracked and the whole thing comes to a crash. And that is what we don't want to be. The metaphor of the executive function that comes from modern neuropsychology uses the brain. In the brain, we got this prefrontal cortex, which is this part here, right on top of the head. This is the whole cortex called the neocortex. Neocortex, only the mammals have a neocortex. Okay, and so human beings are mammals too. So we have neocortex, and the front part of the neocortex is where thinking is done, where decision is made. Okay, the neuropsychology calls this the executive brain. This decides the course of our life. Okay, so this is what we are. We have our neural structure is, we have the neocortex, we have the limbic brain, we have the brain stem. And then we have the nervous system. All right, nervous system is all over our body, and our brain stem is the lowest part of the brain, just above our spine, and a little bit higher is the limbic brain, and on top of the head, like a cap that we wear, is our neocortex. Neocortex is a layer of neural cells, which are maybe 5 or 6 cell thick layer. But we humans have got these crevices and folds which are very, very deep. So if you take our skull, open it, get the neocortex, spread it out, it takes a large surface, okay? And most other animals don't have the kind of neocortex that we have got. The prefrontal part is the executive brain, okay? Now, for the executive brain to guide us along a path to achieve a purpose, we have to have certain responsibilities, okay? We have the responsibility of regulating the life of a human being to achieve the purpose of his or her life, okay? Purpose, there's a time element, okay? I'm here now, I want to be there in 3 days, so there's 3 days of time element. And if I cannot regulate my life to keep focused on that purpose that I want to achieve at the end of the 3rd day, then I will be lost. So there's self-directed attention to regulate my focus on, and then self-directed inhibition. Okay, so I got to go from place A to place B, but in between there is something very attractive. Okay, I'm a 20-year-old person. There's a beautiful looking blonde I meet on the way. So I try to spend 7 days with her, and 3 days later I want to be somewhere else. So I have to be able to say no if I have sincerity of purpose. So I should be able to inhibit myself, stay on the course. Self-directed sensory motor actions, self-directed speech, self-directed emotion and motivation. Whatever we do, whatever we feel, it has to be self-directed so that we can regulate our life. Even the play, entertainment that we have, we should choose so that it does not distract us. We should be regulating our life to achieve that purpose. Okay, and this is the executive function, a set of capabilities for a person to achieve his or her goals. Okay, and that list is there, and we can make use of that list and try to do the best we can. Okay, yogic contemplation, there are 8 components of it, and its purpose is to enable the CEO to develop his or her executive function. Okay, it's not only a list, but it's what you do to become whatever you want to become. State of deep contemplation, one of 4 states in which human being exists. Now, if we look at life, we have a physical body, nervous system, lower regions of the brain, the limbic brain, and the brain stem, and then the higher neocortex. Okay, now with these things, we can only have 4 different states of being. This is a natural waking state of being. I am behaving in the outside world, and I'm also getting sensory information from my body and my memory, and I'm running my physiology, my breathing and everything else that I run, which is run by the brain stem. So this is the brain stem activity, this is the amygdalic activity, and then I should maybe some of the amygdalic activities sometimes refer to the neocortex, where some thinking is required. Otherwise, amygdala disposes of everything. So what is happening is I see something outside. There may be a response from my nervous system, what's called a reflex response. Okay, and if that doesn't happen, it may be a response from my amygdala, which is an emotional response, and my neocortex doesn't even know what is happening. Okay, now at times things are referred to the thinking brain, so we decide what to do. Most of the time we don't even are aware, we are not even aware. You know, an example of something like that, I come home, I see something happening in my home, and I don't even try to find out what is happening. I just start reacting to it. Okay, people have killed people in rage without really knowing why they're killing the other person. That is the kind of state that we are in. Things are happening automatically, but become aware of what we did. And then we say, oh, I didn't really mean to do that, but I was not in my mind. I was not in control. It happened. Okay. So that kind of thing should not be happening. Anyways, this is the natural waking state. And then we have a dream sleep state. In dream sleep state, what happens? Our unconscious, the body, we call the sense organs in the body, we shut them off. Okay. The body, we make it inactive. We shut off the sensory input. So we shut off this channel of sensory activity, but this channel is still open. I can, my amygdala can feel the emotion in a dream. Okay, so that channel is still open. I'm still running my breathing and things like that. So those two channels are open, but this channel is shut off. Okay, and then I have what is called a dreamless state, where this channel, of course, is shut off, body is inactive, but we also cut off the access to our genetic memory. Okay, and then we say we are not really dreaming. If they're dreams, we are never aware of the dreams. Nothing is disturbing our life, our sleep. We say, oh, we slept very well, and that sleep, the soundless, dreamless sleep, is the most restful state of being. Okay, and then we make another part inactive. Okay, this channel is inactivated. This channel is inactivated. Body is awake. Okay, body is not inactivated. It's awake. We are running our breathing. We are running our heart. All that is now being run by here, by the neocortex, because through breathing we control our heart rate, we control our digestive rate. Once we control our breath, so breath can be controlled with our conscious brain, and that is going on. So life is going on. We are alive. Our bodies, biological functions are going, and it's fully conscious. And this state, in this state, what we have done is we have freed our consciousness totally from our instincts. And this is called a state of deep contemplation. Okay, now we go from our waking state to this state of deep contemplation, and that journey is the yogic contemplative journey. And there are 8 steps to it, and we go through those 8 steps. Just one sec. The purpose of yogic contemplation, Application of focused attention in an inner ambience of calm in an undistracted manner to an object of passionate interest to the contemplator. The object unveils all its secrets in that state. It reveals itself as it indeed is without any subjectivity. As it is, it reveals itself as it indeed is without any subjectivity. So you can see the object in its full objectivity in that state. The joy of seeking transforms the contemplator with this embodied, intimate, actionable, and experiential knowledge and understanding. So that is what the purpose of contemplation is, to transform yourself, and that transformation happened through that seeking. Okay. Contemplation is not needed if there's no curiosity to explore and to know. Explanations are accepted. If I accept things on belief, if I don't know something and somebody says, oh, this something that you don't know, this is what it is, and I accept it, then I don't need any contemplation, then I know it all. Contemplation is one reason, knowing is one reason to you seek. There's no capacity to think critically if I just think belief. Okay, anyways, I'll forget about it. I want to show you this thing. We are born with a curiosity. And that curiosity, if we somehow kill that curiosity.
You know, crawled out of our mother's wombs, see a newborn child, how he's looking. He's asking, who, what the hell is all this? So much creation. Do you see question marks in his eyes? What? So much. Who did all this? Obviously, first he looks at his mother. Well, the mother delivered you, but she can't deliver the planet. Then you look at your father. Well, obviously he can't do all this. Then you looked at every other adult around you. Nobody seems to be capable of doing all this.
So this is where the seeking starts. If we have that curiosity, okay? If somebody says, this is how it happened, then we believe it, then we will not go on that seeking journey, okay? So 8 components of yoga. Yoga makes you in charge of your life. It makes you your own therapist, psychotherapist, behavioral therapist, and your own research worker and your own guru. Contemplative self-organized learning of your body, mind, and behavior by being conscious of your physiology and your psychology, okay? The yogic mantra is make the unconscious conscious. Why? Because survival instincts work unconsciously. We want to rise above survival instinct, okay, if we want to be able to achieve a purpose. Okay, there are 2 components of yoga that are called, that are needed for emotional stability. Or they are the prerequisites to the practice of yoga, you can say. Yama is social ethics, a moral code, minimum moral code you must have. 5 don'ts: no lust, no violence, no lying, no stealing, and no acquisitiveness. Don't just hoard things. Take what you use, not much more. Okay, no violence, no lying, no stealing, no lust. And then this is a moral code, and then you remember the same code is there in the executive functions. They call it self-regulation to inhibit. Okay, moral code is inhibition, no no lust, no violence. This is no lying, no stealing, no equity. This all inhibition. And then niyama, rules of personal observances. Do this and do this and do this. Don'ts first and then do's. Okay, what are the 5 do's? Keep yourself clean. Keep your mind clean, your body clean. Keep yourself contented. Don't want to live a rich life, austere life, austerity, okay? And do some self-study. Pick up a book sometimes, pick up the scripture sometimes, read and understand, okay? So 5 don'ts and 5 do's. And then 6 actionable components. Remember, these actionable components start from a waking state. So this diagram here is of the waking state. And what is the first actionable component? Asana. Asana means physical posture. Okay. The yoga that is taught in the yoga studios, they're asanas too. They're physical postures essentially to give you some physical fitness. Because when you sit in contemplation, that you should be able to sit, your body should be fit enough to sit in an undistracted position for an hour or so, or 2 hours or 3 hours. My friend in New Jersey, he sits to contemplate for 6, 7 hours. He does not move from his seat. He does not. His body is so stable that he has no pains, no problem sitting in a position without any distraction. You try to do that. If your body is not fit, you cannot. So those yoga asanas that you learn from a yoga studio are essential to make your body capable of sitting in a posture that does not disturb. It doesn't lead you to any pain. If you're sitting on your seat for half an hour, people are moving, back and forth. Sometimes, shift your weight from one side to the other side and so on and so forth. That is happening, okay? So you should be able to sit, your body should be fit, and then you sit in a position which is comfortable and which is stable, okay? Now, what are the examples? 2 examples there. See this guy sitting there? No, he can not sit there like that if he did not do any yoga asanas. His body is fit. Look at the flexibility of his legs and his joints. Okay, this is called a mountain position. It used to be as stable as a mountain. No movement required. You should be able to sit like this for hours. But if you can't do that, okay, do this. Like in the West, we don't have any flexibility in the legs. We can't sit in this position. So maybe sit in this position. The spine is vertical. The same thing here. Okay, the verticality of the spine and the weight of the torso and the body being transmitted through the spine, that is a very important requirement. And if that requirement is not met, your weight is being transmitted through some muscles, then you'll have muscle ache and you will not be able to contemplate. Okay, so a position to sit in contemplation for a long period of time is very important. And that's a body thing. Your body should be fit enough to sit. And your mind thing also. Try and sit like this for 10 minutes and do your deep breathing. It's so difficult to sit because we are so action oriented. We want to do something. Our body wants to do something. Okay. So we got to develop an emotional stability so that we can sit, and we got to have a stable body. And the second thing is pranayama, breath regulation. That is what we did for 10 minutes. I have a metaphor that I used last time, I think in reference to a question. What is the purpose of deep breathing? That was the question that was asked. And the answer was that we want to work on our mind. Our mind, the metaphor used for the mind is an iceberg. It is never stable, it is always moving. An iceberg in ocean is always bobbing up and down and left and right and this way or that way, depending on which way the wind blows. So that is the state of our mind. Okay. The first thing, if I want to take the iceberg, I want to shape it. I want to transform my mind. What am I want to do? I want to shape the mind. Okay. First thing that I have to do, get hold of the mind so that it doesn't move around, it doesn't bobble around, so that let me work on it to reshape it. Okay, and that is the purpose of the breath regulation. Breath regulation calms your mind, calms the movement of the mind. You become emotionally stable, and then you can work on it. Otherwise, to have a focus of the mind is going to be very difficult. You can do it, but you have to have a very strong persistence. Normal human beings will not be able to contemplate without getting hold of the mind through breath control. Okay, so breath control or pranayama is a component, an actionable component, which is hugely important. And after that comes, or this is an example, we already know that, okay, we already did that for 10 minutes. And then pratyahara, okay. Remember, we started with the, in the contemplative mode from waking state, okay. We sat down on, in a certain position so that our body is not distracted. And then we practice some breathing, conscious breathing that stabilize the mind a little bit. But the mind is, our eyes may be open when I'm doing the deep breathing. Our ears are open and this, that, and the other. Our senses are still outward oriented. We inward change the orientation of the senses from the outward to inward. Okay, close the eyes if want, sit in a room, maybe all of this should be done in a room which there's not too much sound, not too much noise, and this, that, or the other, nothing distracting. Choose the external environment properly, and then try to orient the senses inward. Okay, closing the eyes is the one thing that you can do. You can't close the nose, you can't close the ears. Eyes can be closed, of course. And once you do that, once you close the eyes and close this inward orient the senses, this channel is gone. So body is sitting in a stable position, awake, fully awake. Body is not inactivated, but this channel of communication is inactivated. I don't see what is going on around me, okay? But I can still see what is going on inside my body, inside my memory. Like this is kind of a dreaming state, you can say. But in dreaming state, this guy is sleeping, is inactive. But when you're contemplating, this guy is not inactive. This is perfectly active state. So this is called pratyahara, this orienting the senses inward, cutting off the sensory input from the outside. Okay, and then when you do that, you will find the mind is still moving. It's moving from one object to another object to another object, like that, maybe 3 or 4 objects. It is circulating between one of the 3 or 4 objects or 5 objects, a minimal number of objects. Okay, and then you are in that state, and then dharana means picking one of the some objects that come to your mind. Okay, dharana is picking one to focus attention on. Okay, so the object of contemplation becomes one of O1, O2, O3, and so on. Okay, that is the state after you close the senses to the outside world. And then comes dhyana. If you select one object, O, that object is being considered by your mind, and your mind is focused on that object. That's when it starts to reveal itself. You get to know that object. Okay? You are paying attention to that object, and no other object is coming to your mind. Okay? And the knowledge in this state that you get is subjective knowledge, because you're thinking through your amygdala. Your emotions are still tied in there. So if you're attached to an object, then that knowledge that it reveals of it is subjective knowledge, filtering through your emotions. Okay. Then the next state is called the samadhi state. You look at the object not on this side of the amygdala, but on this side. Okay. There is no activity between the amygdala now and the nervous system, and the nervous system and the body, other than the breath is still going on because it is being run by the prefrontal cortex. Okay, so this, now you have the objective knowledge of the object. No subjectivity involved there, because we are looking at the object only through the eyes of our consciousness, not filtered through our ego identity or our other sense perception, etc. So we are now outside the range of our senses. This is deep contemplation. Samadhi is the deepest contemplation. Once I know the object O as it is, then I know exactly the truth of that object. Then that truth is, because it's coming from my mind, is actionable. If you tell me what this object is like and you behave with it like this, it is your wisdom coming to my mind. I may listen to you or not. Most probably I won't. My ego will come in the way. Who the hell is Fred to tell me this? But when it comes from my own consciousness, okay, then there is no assertion of my ego in there. Okay, this is samadhi stage 1. And then what happens if you keep considering object O? The object is there, but and then if you keep considering that, even that object will disappear. Then you are there with your consciousness alone, nothing in your consciousness. Okay, that is what is called the God consciousness, you can say. Your consciousness of your consciousness. You're conscious of your consciousness only, but nothing else. Okay, this is what the cloud of unknowing. Remember the book called The Cloud of Unknowing, Darrell? There should be no thought in your mind, not even the thought of God. If you have a thought of God in your mind, God is not there. This is the cloud of unknowing. I don't know which tradition the author was. The author is anonymous, and that is that condition. And if we look at this view, what is happening is our consciousness usually is out there with the body. Okay, we take that consciousness somewhere here. That is the contemplative consciousness. That's where consciousness is located in contemplation, away from the rational faculty of the intellect. Intellect can be divided into two parts. One, intellect is rational, based upon your instincts, based upon your sensory faculty, okay? And once you go beyond that, then it is outside the range of rationality, okay? When the consciousness is located here, then you are in contemplative state. I guess I'm done. Now, what did I have here?
Wonderful, Shiv. Thank you. That was
This
just
is,
wonderful.
You follow those methods, you cannot go wrong. That is the guarantee that is implied in yogic contemplation. You have to keep your body fit. You got to keep your mind fit. And we only got these two instruments, mind and body. And how to use your mind and body to transform your mind and body. Okay. Once you go through this process, you have no physical disability, you have no mental disability. All those disappear because you are in a state of deep sleep all the time, total rest. The purest rest that is there. And then you are also fully conscious, and you're also learning about something, and learning so deeply that that learning is lived. And that is what is called transformation. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Shiv. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.